caught it earlier, right? Where I
Yeah.
turn it around before I start, or do I have to redo last week's?
No, you're okay.
Okay.
But you know, seaplanes, understanding your seaplanes are critical. So as I was just saying, that if I try and rotate this now from the right seaplane, 0 enter, because that's the point I don't want to move. You can already see that that steering wheel is also not in the right direction.
No wonder why I not rotate them.
You know, it's giving you, once again, actually that is in the right direction. Sorry. I meant to go to front first to show you. Front, if I do front, it rotates you this way. Actually, front or right would work. Only one that won't work for you is top. So,
It's not right.
now to get it straight up and down, you can either type in an angle, 180 is what it would be, or you can hold the shift key, because it wants a origin, point A, point B. That's what it wants. We've given it the origin. Point A is a reference for where it is now. You could click absolutely anywhere, but because we want to control it, we're going to hold the shift key and click straight up, down, because that's what we want to come
Wait, how did
straight
you,
up.
straight down? How did you do that?
Okay. Start the rotation, 0.
Uh-huh.
And then if I hold shift key, that locks it in ortho. You're familiar with that, right?
Yeah.
So I can either go straight to the side,
Mm-hmm.
straight to down, straight to the side, or straight up.
Okay.
I want straight down because that's where the top of the ring is.
Oh, so you just go there and hit.
And then I come up
Okay.
and hold shift,
Okay.
and that'll do it too.
Okay.
So 180 would have worked,
Yeah.
or that would have
Okay.
worked. So either one of those will get it done. Okay? So now that you've got that, I'm going to remove some of these construction lines.
I didn't know how to do them without cutting everything. I didn't put it on
So we're going to get rid of those. I'm going to organize your file by color. It's going to be easier for us to understand.
Yeah, I made a mistake of doing everything in the file.
Well, it just makes it harder, that's all.
It was hard to follow it. But does it look, I guess it looks alright.
I will see if it's symmetrical here in just a minute.
Yeah.
First I want to organize the file so that I can see it. And there. So now we have something very similar to what we had in the video. I am going to also move this so it lines up on a grid, just because that makes me more comfortable. So I'll go from center, and then I'll go grid snap, so it's stuck on a grid. There. Okay. Now I'm going to look at your symmetry. Fastest way for me to check symmetry, or you to check symmetry, is to mirror. If I take this and I mirror it, which is right, mirror on your command line is right here, on your tab is right here. I use a shortcut for it, because you know me, I use a shortcut for everything. See how we have two different drawings?
Yeah.
That means you don't have symmetrical.
That's because I wasn't, when I did the last drawing, it wasn't in the center. I moved
Yeah.
it there later on.
So I'm going to ungroup
Then it
these
somehow moved back.
so that they are all. I can also tell, see this little red, your
Yeah.
red lines? You can already see those should be right along this
Right.
center axis, and they're not. So I'm going to go ahead and grab those right now. And remember how I told you in class for homework this week, I want you to start memorizing when you look at these orthographic views, top, front, side, which construction planes these axis lines represent.
Right.
This is your right seaplane.
Okay.
This is your front seaplane.
Right.
Okay. I want these to be flat on the right seaplane,
Okay.
and they're not. So I will come in here, I will set up right C-plane, and I will project to
Flat,
C-plane.
that, like, just aligned with that green line, right?
Yeah, I want them flat on that piece of ground, because this is now our piece of ground. This is now our eternal sheet of paper. I want them flat on that eternal sheet of paper. And to do that, you project to C-plane and say yes. And did you see how that moved that?
Yeah.
I'll undo and then redo so you can actually see the movement.
I see it slightly, yeah.
If I go to the top view now,
Oh, yeah. Wow.
it's right where it needs to be.
Right.
I'm going to check your front view looks good. The front view lines should be right along this front C-plane, which they are. So they look good. The only thing that's really giving us a problem, well, the more advanced problem anyway, right now is the top view. So let's go back there and take a look at what we have. Now I moved this using the center of this oval. But somehow, I use the center of the ring bore. So yeah, click the center of the oval and type 0. Once again, it's a two-step process. Move.
Okay. Why everything was
And then
down.
2 steps. From, to. From, to. Point to move from the center of the circle, the center of the ellipse. Point to move to 0. So now the ellipse is centered. Now what's interesting is when I selected this, it looked like it was, no, it's okay. It's centered. All right, good. This looks like it's asymmetrical in several ways.
Yeah. I
Uh,
see it.
Yep, so it's wider over here, it's narrower over there. It has problems. So, well, because your information that you took off your flattened top view got distorted, because that's what you draw it from. So you have this line that you've already created that represents the width here. I'm going to copy that line. And since I used grid snap to place that blue, I can just move it straight down with grid snap. Oh, and I don't want it in the dark blue layer. I want it on the top view layer. So I've got that. Now I need to know how wide it is. So by using quad snap, turning off grid snap. I always turn grid off unless I need to use a grid, because it's the most powerful snap of all and it will really get in your way.
Okay.
I'm going to come to the quad now. See if I come to, because quad will give me the widest point on this. And if I do that, pull both sides, B enter, shift key to make it straight, I have the width. But notice that it's not on the ground,
Right.
because the widest point of your front view isn't on the ground.
Okay.
Okay? I need that on the ground. The way to get that on the ground, one of the
Why do
ways,
you need it on the ground?
because I'm going to use it to draw your
Oh,
top
to
view.
draw the- okay. Right.
So to get it on the ground, all I have to do is click project on my OSNAP.
Okay.
Now when I draw my line,
Oh, before you do that, you need to-
and do you see where see that white rubber band?
Yeah.
It's going to project that pick point
I see.
to the C-plane,
Right.
which in this case is flat on the ground.
Okay.
Okay? If I had the right C-plane active, it'd project it over there.
Right.
So it'll project it to whatever C-plane I have active.
Okay.
So always being aware of which C-plane you have running is important, because Rhino calculates everything based off of the C-plane.
How do you? Stupid question. How do you know what seaplane you have active?
The one you're looking at. If you can't see it, it's not active.
Okay. Oh. Oh. Okay.
So right now it's top, because you can see the top.
Yeah.
Going to mirror that over. That's a brave thing to do. So instead of mirroring that over right away, I'm also going to, in case this isn't symmetrical, I'm going to grab here and pull both sides. And look at that.
Right.
we have asymmetry in this drawing. Okay. I have to get rid of that or we will have problems the whole time. And the way that you've gotten, I just went into front C-plane. Oh, you find that, by the way, you go to your viewport property, set C-plane, world top, world right, world front. Okay? But what I've done with mine is, if you go to Tools, Options, and you click on Aliases, okay? My R is C-plane right, all one word.
Oh, okay.
Okay? So if you want to create one of these, you would go New, and then down here, you would type in the letter you want to use,
Right.
and then over here, you would type in the Rhino command.
Okay.
Okay? It won't let me do R because that's already on here. R's right here.
Okay.
If I wanted to change it, I could do that. I could select on it and then come over here and change that.
Okay.
But I don't want to. I want to keep it. But that's so R, I've set R to C-plane right, T to C-plane top, F to C-plane front,
Right.
because FRT makes sense to me.
Yeah.
Okay? But, and it's faster than, you know, it's easier for me to go top, right, front,
Yeah.
top,
Yeah.
than it is to go,
Yeah. I have to do that.
okay? Okay, so I'm going to make this symmetrical. Quickest way to make this symmetrical is actually to join it together and then do a cutting plane. I use them all the time. Cutting planes creates a surface that's perpendicular to the current C-plane, which in this case is top. I want it right in the middle, so I'll type 0. Can you see how useful it is to have your model in the middle?
Yeah.
Because all the time I can
Yeah.
just type 0 to get to the
Right.
center.
Right.
And I just pull it in straight direction like that, and it'll give me a surface that I can use to trim this way. Goodbye, first half of your piece. And then I'm going to, now why did I change the C-plane?
I was just going to ask you that.
Because when you're drawing, you're always drawing on the C-plane.
Oh.
In Rhino, everything is always on the C-plane, Barbara, or relative to it.
Okay.
So it's either right on the C-plane,
Yeah.
or it's a certain, or it's parallel to the C-plane,
Okay.
or a certain distance from the C-plane. The only way you can get off of the C-plane when you're drawing is to snap to pre-existing geometry.
Okay.
So if I try to draw right now, and I'm in the top C-plane, I'm going to try and draw this really pretty curve that you've got here. I'm going to trace it. Look how carefully I'm tracing this, Barbara. I'm doing a pretty decent job. I am being so careful with this.
So why wouldn't you mirror it?
Because it's going to not be smooth. So there we go. I've traced your curve, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I've traced it in the top C-plane. Where do you think it is? It's on the C-plane. When you're drawing, you can't get off of the C-plane,
Oh.
Barbara.
Oh, okay.
So even though it looked like I was drawing,
Right. Okay.
everything I was picking was
Oh,
flat on the ground.
okay. Okay.
Okay? So if I want to draw in this plane, I have to activate that C-plane.
Okay.
You know, I mean, just for sake of repetition, this,
I was not doing any of it.
yeah, the same thing would happen here if I, once again, trace your view. Looks pretty good till I rotate,
Oh.
because I had the right C-plane active.
Okay. Oh.
Okay, so only way to draw in the front C-plane is to activate the front C-plane. Now, if you draw in the front view,
Right.
by the way, how's Kim doing this? Hold down Control with your thumb and hit Tab. Switches views.
Okay.
If you're on a laptop, this is particularly helpful
Yeah.
because when you're doing 4 viewports, everything's too tiny.
Oh, right.
So I like to always have a maximized viewport, and then I just control
Okay,
tab,
so that's the same, okay.
yeah, to change views. If I'm in the front seaplane, front viewport, everything I draw will be on the front seaplane
Right.
because this front seaplane is assigned to the front viewport.
Okay.
But-
See, so when, only when you're on perspective is when you have to change the.
That's right.
The seaplanes.
You have to
Okay.
be aware of it.
Yeah, that's what my problem was.
Yep.
Because I just kept doing it with the mouse and just turning, and I thought
Yeah.
that was turning it,
Yeah.
and that's why I was so disoriented. I'm
That's
like,
right.
"What the hell am I?"
Yeah.
And then it would go away in a corner over here, and it was this little, and I would zoom in, but it was like over
Yeah.
here. and I didn't know
See,
how to do
remember,
it.
all that a seaplane, all that a viewport
Yeah.
is a relationship between a seaplane and a camera.
Right.
That's the only thing. Right now, this camera they don't give it to you anymore. That's funny. In Rhino 6, it should be nope. It should be able to set it to parallel. It should be right here. See, it's funny. They're not even letting you have. They make it so it's idiot-proof, but by making it idiot-proof, it actually prevents people from learning. It drives me crazy.
Right.
You should be able to set this camera to parallel. I'll find a way to do it later, because I'm sure you still can. It's just not where it used to be in Rhino 5. This is a perspective viewport. You can tell because all of the lines, a perspective camera, because all of the lines disappear to a vanishing point like they would in real life. There's an imaginary point way out here that all of these lines converge on. Parallel, they don't converge. They stay straight. So all a viewport is a parallel camera that's assigned perpendicular to the seaplane, straight above it. You can actually create that by typing the word plan. I just turned, even though this says it's a perspective viewport, I just turned that into a front viewport
Oh.
by just assigning a plan camera.
Oh.
That's now a right viewport.
Okay.
So viewports are just, see, I have two right viewports now.
Oh, okay. That's what happened to me the other day
Yeah.
by accident.
Yeah, so it's very easy to end up with that. So, yeah,
Yeah.
I'm gonna
I did it by accident.
yeah, I'll set the camera back to perspective. You better let me.
I did it differently.
Great.
There was a window, if you click on the perspective, it comes up, and it tells you which link to go to. I can't remember.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'll just set it to perspective. That's crazy. Yeah, they're making it more and more that I can't get in and mess with it. But okay, so do you understand?
I do.
Those viewports are just
Yeah.
Rhino giving you a shortcut.
Right.
You can make the same viewport out of a perspective viewport anytime you want to. It's just a camera setting.
Right.
But since you want to look at your model from different angles, they give you a way to look straight at it, straight at it, straight at it.
Right.
And each time they do that, the seaplane is assigned to the angle you're looking at.
But it's different, right? The seaplane is different than the viewport.
That's right. That's right.
And that's what I thought. I thought it was all the same.
Yeah, in fact, I can come to the top viewport and set it with the right seaplane.
Right. Yeah, I thought it was the same thing. That's
No.
why I was all over the place.
Yeah, they just automatically set you up 4 versions. 3 with a parallel camera set to plan.
I get the viewport.
Yeah.
I still don't get. I get the seaplane. I just don't understand when you're in perspective how you could tell what.
Could-
Well, that was part of the homework. Right?
Yeah, yeah, and also you can see how it shows up. I mean, I set it to right. You're looking at a seaplane that goes right through the middle of the ring like a right view.
Yeah.
If I set it front,
But like you just did before when you drew on it.
Yeah.
How do you know?
you have to make sure, one thing, revolve a lot.
How do you, yeah,
Right mouse drag. You should frequently revolve when you're modeling, Barbara,
right,
to make sure you're seeing things from different angles.
okay,
Okay? I'm going to redraw this. Unfortunately, I have another person coming in.
okay,
But I can draw this for you quickly.
yeah.
I would put a starter curve here. I would put a starting curve here. I would offset this
Can we get it to,
1 point.
so that I can start the homework?
We'll put it at 1.6, which is yours is a little thicker. Make it a little bigger so it looks like it's going to match. And then I'll trim that in half using my cutting plane once again. Oops, didn't want to cut it there though. That was bad of me. If anything, I want to cut it over here. I'm going to cut this again where I think it needs to start to angle upward. I can draw a line any way I want. It doesn't matter. Just so long as I cut that off somewhere that makes sense. Because I'm going to want to blend this from here to here. Curve, blend curves, adjustable blend curve. Adjust the handles to get something nice. That's pretty good. Here's a command that brings those back if you want to. It's called end bulge. It's an advanced command that I don't bother teaching in class just because you won't ever need it unless you're trying to do exactly this.
Right.
There are a lot of commands in Rhino that are very specific to just one specific thing you're trying to do. Join these together, mirror it over, join those together. It's a nice closed curve. We're happy about that. There's your ring bore. And so now I need to get you the box to draw your top view, straight line, project, quad, just like we did before, but now it'll be symmetrical.
Right.
Draw another line from the end of this width line we pulled from that flattened top view. Remember where we got that from?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Both sides, shift key. Both sides, shift key. Yep. Also would like something to come from the quadrant of the ring bore, so I know how thick this is. And here as well. So that's my basics. Now, if I want to kind of follow what you have in this view, you have a fairly straight ring in at the front top, which is fine. So I'm going to try and copy that. I'm going to trim off this. I'm going to need a center line. Center line would be useful. Use that to trim up this way. And that way I can take your widest part of your ring and the farthest over and do a blend curve to draw that top view. Curve, blend curve. Where'd you go? Blend curves. Adjustable. Like I said, yours is pretty straight in your drawing. So this is probably pretty good. I'll just leave it. I can delete that now, because I'll actually create the rest of these by just mirroring them around. That way I know they're symmetrical. And now I have restored the top view.
Right.
Okay?
And now is that top view in the center? Oh, okay, yeah. It's not
it's symmetrical. Now, as far as your,
But is it up? Is it on the seaplane on the flat, or is it?
it's flat.
So shouldn't it be in the widest part of the ring? Like
It
the
is.
wire? Oh, it is. Okay. Oh, yeah.
It doesn't match here,
Uh-huh.
which we will deal with later, but it does match up there. You want it flat on the ground because you want to draw flat.
Okay.
Actually, you have to draw flat. Rhino only lets you draw flat.
Okay.
If you're drawing flat on the seaplane, at least you know where it is.
Yeah.
Which is why I use project to get those straight lines down there to do this with. So I know it's the right width. It just doesn't line up here. So we have this. So I don't hear anybody knocking at the door yet.
No. But don't we have to put it up there to that to the next home?
Nope.
No. Oh, that's how it was.
Yep, that's how it should be.
So where was
So-
mine
so-
when we corrected it?
You didn't have a surface yet.
Oh.
So, and yours was on the ground. It was on the ground.
Oh.
So I'm going to now create a bi-rail sweep. Or a surface and curve networks. Now I would love to know where I can figure it out actually. I don't have to love to know. I can just tell Rhino to tell me where it is. I have this curve. I want to have it's divided into 4 parts. Go to a standard construction plane, right click on this button, set the number of divisions I want to 4, and I have it right there. That's useful for me because this one,
This is where the control point is.
this is where if you had the tracing in here, but I don't have your file, I have one that I brought in. This would be the,
That tracing was, I did in Photoshop, but it wasn't, it wasn't the same. The size didn't match. I don't know. It didn't look right.
so having this, what this essentially is, I can divide this by the same 4 segments. If I divide that by the same 4 segments, this is the same thing. This curve represents this
Oh,
section.
okay. This is just to make sure that the.
This is just to help you understand what I'm doing. This is not part of the homework.
Right. But yeah, just
This line is that.
okay.
This line is that.
Right.
This line is that.
Mm-hmm.
This line is this.
And that last line.
And this last line at the bottom is this little guy here. Okay? We want the width right here,
Mm-hmm.
halfway down. We're going to cheat though and actually put it flat on the ground. That width corresponds to that line.
What do you mean you want it flat on the ground?
Because I need it to draw with.
Oh.
So it'll make it a little distorted, but we don't
Yeah.
care. It's a maquette anyway at this point. So I'm going to bring this over. I need to bring it from here.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, I don't want to move it. I want to copy it. From here to because that tells me how wide the ring is supposed to be.
Is that the
Halfway.
right spot?
Yeah, that's the right. It's the right spot. I mean, it's halfway on the ring band. Of course, if you divide this in half, for example, and you divide this by 4, that's halfway, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's 3/4 the way, that's all the way, that's boom, boom, okay, 1/4 the way. You can see that these don't line up with these.
Right.
And that's because you have two things to consider in your ring. You have to consider what's halfway on the finger, what's halfway on the outside.
Right.
They never match.
Okay.
You pick one.
Right. Okay.
So we're picking the one around the finger
Okay.
because that's what we're going to need for modeling purposes.
Right. Okay.
The ones on the outside aren't wrong. It's just a different piece of information that
Yeah.
is harder for us to work with. So I've got this. I'm going to go ahead and draw a straight line from the end of that. This is just a helper piece of geometry. It's not going to be actually part of the finished drawing. I also need to have one of these come off of this where it's at the middle. And we don't really have that here because, as you pointed out, this is further away. You know, this is over here. So we actually need this point right there. We need to find it exactly. Several ways to get that. I'll show you a new one that you probably haven't seen, and that would be section. If I pick section, use my grid snap and pull straight across, it did nothing. Ha ha! That's what I get. Try it from the front seaplane because it does work.
I think you did that on the video.
Yeah.
It gives you control down.
Yeah, it gives you a
Okay.
control point.
That's what I didn't know.
Okay.
Well, why do you go like? Why did you put it right there? Just because of the line?
Yeah, I wanted it. It has to be, because your cross section has to touch this. When you make your surface, all of your cross sections have to contact all of your rails.
Okay.
This is your rail, but its widest point is above where we need the cross section to be. So we actually need to have the cross section down here. We'll have to adjust it probably a little bit later,
Okay.
but that's not hard to do. So there we go. I'll go back to my top C-plane because I'm drawing a cross section for the top view. So I want to stay in my top C-plane. Come in. You are late, my friend.
I was waiting for you like for 10 minutes.
Oh, we've been waiting for someone to knock.
Because I.
Oh, okay. All right, so I'm going to tidy this up.
Yeah, okay, I'm ready outside.
Yeah. Draw that straight over. Blend. I want this to stay inside of what this shape is. I don't want it to stick out.
Mm-hmm.
That's probably good. Join those together. That's one cross section. That's your other cross section. Okay? You need to bring this out. We need to make sure your closed curve that the seam is at the bottom. We talk about that in the video. And I'm just going to copy this. I need it to come out here because I'm going to use it as a rail. So copy. Out to here. By the way, it feels weird, but you could actually offset that curve. Works the same way. Oh, no, it won't. It lied. I lied to you. Sorry. If it weren't closed curve, it would let you. So, back to copy. Copy it from this intersection to that intersection to that intersection. Use this curve. We need to trim off the top of it. I can try and use curves, hope they fit, all that jazz. I'm not going to bother. Front C-plane, surface tools, cutting plane, at 0, all the way over, and trim. So I've got that. I'm going to make a copy of this, put it on that same dark blue layer for now, and I need to trim it as well, which I can do with this cross section. Oh, what are you doing that for? Rhino, I never need help. Not anymore. So you need to draw this cross section. Okay? You already have kind of it here, but it's not going to be accurate. See, it has to match up with these.
How am I gonna do that?
Well, there are a couple of ways to do this. One of them is to go based on your top view. Okay, and that's how I would like to do it. I like to, because it makes sure it's accurate. It gives me more of the spirit of the piece. If I draw 2 lines straight up, and then I cut them off at the ring bore, and then draw 1 curve straight back, so I know it meets on top, and then blend curve. Make this a cross section that I like. Mirror it over. Join it. Throw away my construction pieces. So now I have a cross section that's accurate for my top view. Problem is it's too wide
Right.
for my rails. So to fix that, it's a non-uniform scale. The one place I don't want to move is the top, so that's the place I start from. And end, and quad. End, quad. No change here, no change there. Done. Okay? And that would give you the rails that you use to make that surface with.
Right.
Okay? And then the surface you would adjust to make it fit. I'm going to delete these lines because they're just going to be confusing later. Or do you want to keep them?
Which ones?
The red ones.
Oh.
These that
I guess I don't need them, right?
no, they're not part of the model.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think we left them.
So there you go. From here you'll have to pick it up from the video
Yeah.
and go forward.
All right.
I will